What's good, everybody? This is episode 2 of The Locker Room. It's your boy Keith. I'm with my boys Aaron, Kyle, Matt, and Steve. Once again, we're just here to talk basketball. This is the same thing we would do if we were waiting for next in the gym. It's the same type of discussions, every debate that you hear in different gyms, different parks, and we're just here to discuss it. So let's get straight to it. Our first topic is, out of the 50 greatest players, we all know that there are some players that should have made it and didn't make it. But out of the biggest snubs, you always hear Dominique and you hear Bob McAdoo. So my question to you guys, who is the biggest snub out of the top 50? Is it Dominique or is it Bob McAdoo? I'm going to start with Matt.
All right. This one was a tough debate. I decided.
You had a week, bro.
No.
You had a week.
I think
you don't know.
I think no. I know. I have my answer. Bob McAdoo is the biggest snub to me. But the reason I said he was the biggest snub is because like he had individual success as far as a player, but his teams didn't have that much success. So, he took the path to join the Lakers, come off the bench, and he became a champion out of that. So that's kind of, maybe if he stayed on his own team and racking up the numbers, he might have been on that all-time 50 greatest teams, but he wanted more out of his career, I guess. Dominique Wilkins, he put up numbers. He was a walking bucket highlight film. Like, this dude was a problem, but there was, like, no playoff success with Wilkins. So that's why if he didn't make it, it's like you could score a lot of points, but, he was in the East with the Bulls, so I get it. But at the same time, like, I know that's why he didn't make it. And then Bob McAdoo, he probably didn't make it because going to the Lakers, come off the bench, your numbers are going to take a hit when you do that, especially a great team like that. Like, the Lakers is one of the greatest teams. He got 2 rings out of it, so, that's probably what he wanted. So I would go his way, that he was the biggest snub because he had more success overall in his career, I would say, than Wilkins. That's my take on it.
All right. Aaron, you want to add to that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily be adding because my opinion is going the opposite way. I'd be going for Dominique. My thing is, Dominique was the staple and a franchise player for his entire career, pretty much. He had the years outside of ATL, but we're talking about the bulk of his career was spent as the dude carrying a team on his back, where Mac, in the beginning, he was that guy, but honestly, like, he had a very short-lived, like, period of time for where he was that dude. And, we usually see most dudes, like, after 30 where they go downhill. But, like, for Mac, and most likely it was due to injury, because even before he went to LA, like, if you look at his numbers, this dude was, like, 30 points a game, 34 and a half. And then it gets to this point where he goes to Detroit in 80, 81, and he only plays, 16 games? And then the next season is where he goes to LA after he was injured. So, I mean, that's a tough thing, too, like, not always having the context of history. Did he choose to go to LA because he wanted to win? Or was he one of those dudes who was hurt and never the same? Because, like, if you look at those couple years, like, right before LA, like, it's a big drop from where he was at his apex. But for me, even besides that, for the fact that his apex didn't last that long, and also the fact that, he was on 5 different teams before the age of 30, like, for no franchise player do you really see anything like that. Like, I give it to Neek, and even Neek for the longevity, like, 27,000 points ain't nothing to sneeze at, pretty much. I mean, it's like 26,000 whatever. Like if you round it, you know what I'm saying? That ain't nothing to sneeze at. And like I give the nod to Neek.
I hear that. Nah, 27,000 points definitely isn't anything to sneeze at. There's a handful of players that actually have done that in the league. Kyle, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I was leaning more toward Dominique, but I could see exactly what Aaron was saying, because you got Bob McAdoo had 3 straight scoring titles, like in the apex, like I said, in the apex of his career, and that's that's truly right in the beginning. And it's unfortunate because I'm pretty sure that it had everything to do with injury. Because just by looking at like the timeline of what he was doing, it was like he went from the Clippers to the Knicks or the Buffalo Braves to the Knicks and to the Nets, and then it looks like they were just trading him as a part of everything, and then got waived by this team. And I could tell he had another major injury, and then that's when he started changing, because they went from like 30-some points a game to like 15, and so it swayed a lot. And then with Dominique, now granted, I wish I was able to see more of Dominique, or at least growing up, I never got a chance to see him at all, but it's the Dominique's definitely the longevity would definitely be doing it for me, like personally, because when the list come out, like in like 96 or something like that, or whenever the list they made it. So by that time he only 97. Yeah. So then by that time he only had 2 more years left in his career necessarily. In hindsight, obviously, he retires in 99. But like, if that's the case, you should still be able to give it to him. I saw who was on the list, and don't get me wrong, there are great players, but at the same time, are you really gonna put they're gonna put Dolph Says over Dominique? But the only reason why you would do that is because he'd be like a pioneer in the game. There's no me personally, like you said, 27,000 points is a lot of points. It's a lot of buckets. Not to mention you are one of the the biggest attractions in the NBA at the time. So why not? So I mean, personally, I think. And at the same time, him going back and forth with Jordan in certain situations, you would think that they would give you some kind of respect. But I would go. I'm leaning more toward Dominique for that reason, and the biggest issue being longevity and success. I understand the playoffs and all that good stuff, but sometimes as a player, you're not always held accountable necessarily for what your team could do in the playoffs. So not saying he didn't do good, not saying he didn't do well as well, but that's the biggest thing.
All right. I definitely hear that. I guess the moving around does play a role in it. And also everything that he was doing that Dominique was doing was with one team. So that does play a factor. Steve, what's your thoughts?
Well, first I'm gonna start off with, I always feel the need to say, if you feel someone's a snub, who do you take off the list? Because, I mean, everybody that's on that list, they belong there. Not that these two don't, right? But if you're gonna add them and say they're a snub, who you taking off that list? And as you go by all of those names, you're like, oh man, damn, yeah, this guy's good, this guy's good, this guy's good. And to kind of counter on the counterpart, what Matt was saying earlier about playoffs, there's greats that, that's on that list that they didn't have success in the playoffs either. In fact, they might have even made it and lost every time, without looking at the stats, obviously, of every single player. And another thing I think somebody mentioned about rings, I don't know who did, but the rings don't necessarily mean whether or not you are 50 great or not either, because there's guys on that list, Stockton, Malone, Barkley. I mean, there's a list of guys on that don't have rings, but yet they are 50 great. So I'm not going to use that measuring stick at all as to why one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think that mattered to them, so it shouldn't matter to these two either. So that's that part of it. But again, like I said, if you're going to add them, who do you take off? But with that being said, I'm going to go with Dominique. He held his own. He held his own in the East. He was part of the face of the NBA because he had his own name. So when you talk the NBA and you had a list of people, you never talked on Dominique as being a champion or a great winner, but I think somebody said that he was a great individual player. But when you start looking at the list of players that he had at different moments, I don't necessarily think he had a championship caliber team. So he's not going to have that success like maybe somebody else, like a Jordan or whoever was these champions. I think me and Aaron, well, not me and Aaron, but we all did. We were talking about, but Aaron brought it up about the Rockets. He made a good point. It was only Hakeem that first year. Everybody else was great role players. They was clutch players, even Cassell, young age. These guys was good. Some of them were seasoned. So, it all fit. Dominique didn't have that. He was always missing something. He had certain players. I think he had Mookie Blaylock at one point. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was Mookie at one point. He was a good player, but he wasn't that number two guy that every team needs, because you need two to at least win a chip. You need at least two guys, unless you did like Hakeem, a bunch of players, and that's rare, right? So that's one part of it. Then you got that where Dominique is on that scoring list. McAdoo's not even on that list at 50. He didn't even scratch 50. He's close, but he didn't even scratch 50. Dominique is up there. I think he's like 15, 16 or whatever it is with the amount of points. I mean, he did his part, but it's a team game. So with that being said, he need the players that he need. Now, if he had a chip, maybe he probably gets on that list, right? But again, if you're gonna put him on, who do you take off? But for out of those two, I'm gonna go with Dominique.
Okay. Yeah. So I also agree. I'm gonna go with Dominique just because everything that he did. When you look at faces of the league, there's, especially in the '80s, there was Jordan, Magic, Bird, Isaiah, and Dominique was right there with them. I don't think, as great as Bob McAdoo was, his greatness was more like a players knew kind of thing. It wasn't general. It wasn't like the casual basketball fan knew how great Bob McAdoo was at the time. Like the casual fan knew about Dominique the same way they knew about Jordan, the same way they knew about Dr. J at the time. You brought up his team. Dominique had a decent team, but there was no number two. Like he had guys like Spud Webb, Doc Rivers when he was like really young, Tree Rollins, Kevin Willis. Like he's had good role players, like you said, but he's never had that number two. So I agree with that. 27,000 points is nothing to sniff at all. And Bob McAdoo's championships at the end of the run, basically, end of his career, I think kind of hurt him because, for one, he was coming off the bench. He didn't really have a role like that. And just moving around, it's almost like a Derrick Rose kind of thing. Like Derrick Rose had the one great MVP year, but after that he was injured. He went to Minnesota. He went to Detroit. He went to New York. You know what I mean? Like, do you really give him like a top player of a generation? It's a question of it's a debatable question, but it's kind of similar in my eyes. So for all that, I'm gonna go Dominique, and I kind of like what Steve said earlier when he was like, if you're gonna put one on, you should take one off. So real quick, I'm gonna ask everybody, like, just no looking up anything, but just real quick, like off the top of your head, who would you take off? Me personally, I would take off Shaq, just because at that time everybody knew what he was going to be, but he wasn't that yet. And for him to be,
I agree. I absolutely agree, because his career wasn't as lengthy for us to judge him as a 50 great. But if you're judging it based on who was in the league at the moment, like you said, he wasn't even a champion at that time. Again, but not that champion, not that champions get you on the list, like we said before. But I don't think he did enough yet at that point.
They put Shaq on there because he got his team to the final at that point already, though.
But it's not. But like we said, getting on that list doesn't. It's not about your success as a team and how far your team got. Clearly, because there's guys on there that didn't get far. You know what I'm saying? There's guys that had individual success and they did it for, I think Aaron said, a certain amount of time. So
Yeah,
when you do
because
something,
Stockton at the
it's not
time,
about. It's a,
at the time,
yeah,
Stockton and Malone were on the list, and they didn't make it to the
right,
finals that time. The
right,
50
exactly,
greatest was in the All-Star game, All-Star
right.
weekend, and they made the finals for the first time that season.
Yeah.
And Keith, to mention something else to add to McAdoo, McAdoo was I'm not gonna say he was injured, but if you look at the games that he played, he didn't play a lot of games in certain seasons. So he was in the league for a while, but he was also either injured for a while. And the only reason why I say for a while, because I didn't watch him all his games. I didn't live during that time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know exactly what happened, but there's some missed game, a lot of missed games versus what Dominique did. Dominique did it consistently. He stayed healthy, and you know what they say: your best ability is availability. For McAdoo, I'm to me, I'm not even thinking about putting him on. I think he was great for a short stint because if you look at the stats, he only averaged 22 versus Dominique averaging like 18. So yeah, he did what he did at the peak of his career. And like I said, I'm going to test it to injury without even looking. But you know what I mean? You're only as good as you being on the court. And if you
So
can't be on there,
the thing I'll say with Dominique is like he had the teams that he was on, like because I was the only one who picked actually. But the teams that Nick was on, he had some squads, bro. As far as like, I'm not gonna
not
go
good
through the
enough.
play. I'm not
Not
gonna
good
go through
enough.
no, I'm not gonna go through the players they had that he was playing with, but it's like, bro, you winning 50 games every year, 50, 57, 50 and 32, 52. Like the 57. That's a good team to be winning 57 games. Like that's pretty good, bro. Like that's top of the conference every year. But I don't even think he made the fucking conference finals ever.
Those teams were
So
tough in the
Yo,
I will
80s.
bro,
say
right.
to,
Those teams were
but
Yo,
tough.
here's
East was stacked.
You had
my
They had a
thing is
lot of good
Chicago,
players.
you had Philly, you had
Yeah,
Boston, Detroit, even Milwaukee was a hard out.
right.
and what I'm saying is even if you win
Even Cleveland made
57
playoffs,
games,
bro, back then. They had, you know what I'm saying? What was that? Mark Price was on there. Cleveland had a squad too. Like you had to go
Yeah.
through some teams. It was, that wasn't the same Cleveland team that we see now. People see that they don't have success now, but Cleveland was good at that point because they were making playoffs.
Yeah. Aaron, what were the point you were trying to make?
oh no, I was just gonna say we done seen, LeBron have 50 something win whatever in Cleveland during like the regular
Right.
season and then playoffs have a tough time because that team wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like you can't just look at that and be like, yo, his team was,
But I always say that about LeBron. If you can win 60 games in the regular season, though, then your team's not that bad. Like, I'm sorry, your team is not that bad.
Well,
You
it's
can
not.
win
Well,
but guys
it's not
step it
about.
up in the playoffs though.
Right. I was about to say it's not about being bad. It's like every team is built different. You got teams that are really good playoff teams. I think we talked about certain guys. They played really good during the season, but they get to the playoffs. It's a different level. Everybody got to step their game. Everybody's stats get better. So if
Yeah.
you're still at the same plateau all season, and then even in the playoffs, you're gonna lose, bro. You have to step it up. Even Dominique. Some
Yeah,
of that might
Sasha
have been on him
Pavlovich
too.
ain't have a fifth gear.
Right,
Hmm?
yeah. Dominique should have been putting up 25, but even if he wasn't putting up 25, he needs a co-star that can help him put up 20 plus
I'm not
between the
saying
two.
that. What I'm saying is, like, you're right. You need help. Everybody needs help. But I always say that. I'm always consistent with that. If you have a team that could win a lot of games and you keep losing for whatever reason, like, he never made it out the second round, never made it past the second round. That's not
I
that
think
good.
when you say that, that's more like I think that's on face value because if you go into the stats, let's for instance, because stats don't tell the whole story, but if you go into the stats and you look at, let's say, the years that he made the playoffs, right? And in those years, you look at what his highs were, and then you look at where everybody else is scoring. You know what I'm saying? And then you say to yourself,
On
well,
his,
Dominique scored this, but then everybody else was here. Okay, the problem is he didn't have enough help. Just not even
so,
looking at stats. I'm just saying, what if that is what
I
if
mean,
that is
I have it
true?
in front of me. I have it in front of me. So
So what's the stat? What do you have?
They won 57 games, and this is 86, 87. They won 57 games,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up losing to Detroit in the second round. Okay.
Well, who's the second highest scorer, and what did they average?
Kevin Willis with 16 and 10. So Dominique averaged 29, and then Kevin Willis was on at 16 and 10. Doc Rivers, 12 points, 10 assists,
It's
and
not enough.
Randy Whitman, 12 points, and
That's the average, right, Matt?
That's the average, yeah. So he had three guys that gave him double digits after him. So it's not great, but most teams you probably have it's not great.
You got two guys on most teams. For instance, Mike back then and Pippen. Mike putting up 35, 40, sometimes fucking 69 performances, and Pippen putting up like maybe 25. I think Pip averaged like through his career. I don't know what he averaged in any particular playoff series, but his career, I think he was like 18 or something like that, 19 maybe the most. But that's regular season. Playoffs, he might have scored more. But if you got Mike putting up 69, 40, sometimes 30, at least Pippen putting up at least 20. Willis is only putting up 16. He's banging on boards. And you know there's a lot of bigs back then too. So Willis got to put up at least 20 or close.
Then you got Doc Rivers, who he's giving you 12, but he's also giving you those 10 assists. You know, like they did their job. Like they weren't great. They weren't like a great team that he had, but it obviously worked to win a lot of games because this team was winning 50 plus games. Like in the core of the prime, they were winning a lot of games every year, unless like somebody got hurt or some shit. But like 57, 52, 50, that's a lot. In the East, in that stacked East too, that's not something to just
Yeah, but we don't know the makeup of what was going on. For instance, they could have been a very good team. They could have been good
team. That's a really good point, though.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, though. If you think about like your team can't be that bad if you're really winning that many games.
I know, but we're not saying it was a bad team. We're just saying they wasn't good enough. Because if they're good, if they're that, think about it. If they're that good, right? If they're putting up 50 plus wins, imagine what the other team that they lost to was doing. And even if they wasn't doing that in the regular season, obviously they understood that we got to play that much better to beat them.
So here we go. If we take this example to if we take it to the weight room, and I go with my brother, and we warming up, we doing like one plate, and then we put it on 2 plates, and he's doing sets of 10, sets of 12. And it's like, oh, nah, he's doing good with whatever. And then I'm like, all right, now we at 315. And 315 is the playoffs. Like, some teams don't have that extra gear once you take it to another level. And it's like, okay, we're doing reps of 315. He ain't got it. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, yo, 225, I was just warming up. Like, I may have not been doing, everything that I could have done at 225. But now you're going to see when we put this 315, there's another level to it. I just think his team didn't have that next level that they could go to. I think they went all out on the 225, and when it came to 315, they ain't had nothing in the tank.
Just to give a reference, like you brought up Scottie Pippen. I'm looking at his stats per game during the season, and for the first 3 championships, he was probably averaging around like 18, 19 points in the season. But then you look at the playoffs, and he's averaging 22. And he's guarding, arguably, he's most likely guarding the best player on the other team.
Player, right. And Jordan's probably guarding that team's second best player. And they might be alternating at times if there's a play designed for Pippen or, just to take him off the ball so he can have the energy to, perform that play. And here's another thing. Back then, there was only a 5-game series. Bro. So when you down 0-2, you might win. The other team might win the next game, but bro, there's 3 games where they can win just 1 game. And you're out of there that fast because there's only a game of 5, and it's playoffs. There's all about adjustments. So teams adjust to each other because they're playing each other more often. So maybe somebody figured them out that nobody was able to figure them out in the regular season. So they looked really good. You know what I'm saying? And who's the coaching staff? How is they being coached? Because we also know that
They have Patella, bro.
as players can get you to the playoffs, but it's your bench and it's your coaching staff that kind of carries you as long as you continue to do your job. Like, for instance, Jordan did his job, Pippen did his job, bench had to do their job, and coaching had to do. If those two things didn't help out Pippen and Jordan, they were not going to win. I don't care if Jordan put up 80 points. What's going to happen?
So they had Mike Fratello was the coach. I'm talking about Atlanta, right? And then in '89, they actually acquired Moses Malone in 1989. Still got bounced in the first round. And Malone was giving you 20 and 12 in that year. And he was giving you 20 and 12, and Nick was still giving you 26. Still had Doc giving you 13 and 7 assists, and Reggie Theus at 15 a game.
Who they got bounced by?
Right. Right.
Bucks. The fucking Bucks.
And what was there? What was?
Bucks were nasty in the 80s.
I was about to say, bro, you had to be that much better than the next team.
You had Sidney Moncrief with the Bucks. They were good, but like, you got to be kidding me, bro. Like, if you if I see you losing to Boston and like they lose to Detroit, or Boston or Chicago, like, I get it. Those are the teams that went to the finals and they won the chip most of the time. But they got him help. You know what I'm saying? They got Nick some help. Moses Malone, he was 33 at the time, so he wasn't like old or whatever. He was still very effective. And then
it's all about game planning. Look at Golden State. They beat number 1 Dallas. Yeah. You would have never thought a number 18 would have beat a number 1 team. So now if Dominique Wilkins ain't a number 1 team, and that means the competition between him and the team that he's playing against, the competition is a lot closer. You know what I'm saying? Versus a 1 versus 8. So what was his seeding? Was he a 4 versus a 5? You know what I'm saying? Or 3 versus 6? Or you know what I mean? Like that. Or that all matter to me. That would all matter too. It's a lot of little moving pieces that might have mattered if the competition's already close and you don't step up, meaning his role players, you're gonna get bounced.
Yeah. Plus that Bucks team was, a lot of people consider them the greatest team to never win a title. That was lethal. Yeah, it was basically that situation. That was a great team. They just couldn't win.
Right. Yeah. Like individual stats look great, but when you got the playoffs, you just couldn't get over that hump. That almost happened to Peyton Manning. I hate to go to football, but right? That almost happened to Peyton Manning.
All right, so just to put a pin on this topic, I'm gonna go around and just give me again who you guys pick. I think everybody picked Dominique except for Matt, but I'm just and also who would you take out, like just off the top of your head? Who would you take out of the top 50? So Aaron.
All right, so I got Dominique. I'd take out, and no disrespect, Dave the Busher.
Okay.
Who? Wait, who?
Dave the Busher.
Okay.
Steve, who would you take out?
I don't know everybody on the list. That's tough because the people that I know that's on the list, they definitely belong there. So there's some guys on that list that I honestly don't know or I didn't see them play. So it's hard for me to judge without being biased.
Okay.
I really don't. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I respect that. But you picked Dominique as well, right?
If I had to, Barkley. No, sorry, Shaq. Because we talked about that. Shaq. Only because his career, he didn't. To me, it was kind of just kind of really getting really good, but he wasn't there yet. So for him to be on that list, I thought he was young to be on that list versus all of the other guys that have been putting,
Okay. And Matt, you picked Bob McAdoo. And who would you take out? Just off the top of your head.
I don't know. Like Steve said, I don't know any of those guys on that. I don't know everybody on the list. I'm looking at it now. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? But I would have to look at the numbers.
Take off the guy that looks like he can't play. if you don't know him.
Like, I mean,
The one that matches, the one that's matching socks, sneakers, shorts, shirt, headband. He's out of here. Get him out of here. He looks like a bum.
like,
You gonna take out Jason Terry?
Oh shit.
like, there's some guys on here that like Dave Bing Buddha. Like, I don't know who these guys are. I can't. Like, I'm not taking out like Shaq or because I know with Shaq, you know, Shaq had instant success in the playoffs once he got to the league. He mentioned Barkley. I would not take out Barkley. Like, I don't know. I can't really say who I would take out. But
I know that's bro. That's how I was. I was like, okay, you forced my hand, go Shaq, only because his career just started.
Yeah.
How you a 50 great and you only been in the league for a few years? You know what I mean?
I don't even want.
Keith made that point.
I don't even want to look at some of these dudes' stats because it's gonna get me tight. Like, I know it's gonna get me tight, so I'm gonna save myself. Like,
all right, so Matt's
all right, so Matt's undecided. Word.
He said all that to say this.
Kyle, who you taking out? I'm pretty sure you have Dominique, right?
Yeah, I had Neek.
Yeah. So who off the top of your head, if you could think of anyone, who would you take?
Well, I remember glancing at the list, but I probably either Dave DeBusschere or Paul Arzon. But the thing is,
I
like,
don't even know Paul
you got
Arzon.
but I mean, what I know, like I said, what I was saying before is like if you want the reason why a lot of these people were on the list is because of what they meant to the game, not necessarily how good they really were. It was, it's because
is that what they said or
no? I mean, just based off of how it looked. Come on now, Dave DeBusschere, you're not gonna put him against like automatically. That you got to make room for LeBron, Kevin Durant. Like if they would redo the list, a lot of those people would get moved off.
oh hell yeah, you got to do
Dave,
like 100.
Dave DeBusschere helped bring New York the
Knicks
title.
That's nice.
Oh.
That's nice to know, but no. And like I said, no. It's how I feel about the Knicks, and you know how I feel about the Lakers. Those are the only two teams I ever followed in my life.
I think we all feel like that.
So, but like it's one of those situations where I was looking at it mainly because it's just like, all right, I could tell this guy was like Dolph Shades. Like a lot of these dudes were like they're mystifying, beings because of the game, what they meant to the game, not necessarily for their actual ability per se. Especially by 1997,
Yeah, not feel you. And me personally, I'm adding Dominique. I think he was the biggest snub, and I'm taking off Shaq. Like I said before, hindsight 2020, we knew that he would have a 50 greatest player career, but up to that point, he was only in the league 4 or 5 years. He got to the finals, yeah, but it wasn't like. It was more so like how LeBron James was when he got to the finals against the Spurs.
Right.
Like he knew something great was gonna happen, but he wasn't great yet. So that's I would take Shaq off.
I'll take off Bill Walton. Motherfucker has 6,000 career points, bro. You gotta be shitting me.
Again, what they mean to the game.
We need to really, bro. We need to really dive in and see how did they make this list. What were they the best players in their era? You know what I'm saying? Like some of these guys, they got black and white pictures on there, bro. Like were some of these guys like great in that at a certain time? Because if you look at a person's career, they might have career lows, right? But they might have really did good at a particular year during a certain era. You know what I mean? And back then the era probably was smaller than that with the way the era is now, because the game has expanded a lot.
So if you guys want, we could take next episode and just dedicate the whole episode to dissecting the 50 greatest.
Dang.
That might take a couple episodes.
That's homework.
It might be like 25 greatest.
Yeah, right. We'll do a part 1 and then a part 2. And then during part 2 we'll bring it all together.
I'm gonna get tight looking at these numbers, bro. I'm gonna, like 13,000 career points for Dave Cowens. Like, who? Like,
I could have put up 6,000 points, bro.
Those careers were a lot shorter back then, man.
Put me in, coach.
what was y'all doing on the court, bro?
The careers were a lot shorter back then.
I hear you, but
and that's why I said depending on the era. You feel what I'm saying? Because if a guy era is back then, your career's short. And I do know in the beginning, people had side jobs too, bro. Like they had a main job, and then NBA was the side job.
Yeah.
So I know that much. So you got to kind of account for that too. Where if everybody's not really there, then maybe some of these guys belong on the list because they started this. They was the ones who sacrificed a lot. So then they would belong on that list. That's like, something that's not going to show.
Look at Bill Walton, because Bill Walton had a great playoff run when they won the title, but I think he tore his Achilles. That technically ended his career. It wasn't until he was healing, he got better, he went to the Celtics or whatever. But back in the day, a torn ACL or a torn Achilles ended your career. It wasn't sit out for a year and rest and try to rehab it. You were done.
Right.
Nah, he had foot injuries, but he came back with the Celtics and was coming off the bench with the Celtics. I think he won Sixth Man of the Year or some shit with the Celtics. So he was able to I get it. He got hurt, but come on, bro. Some of these fucking people, what are y'all doing?
I'm just looking at it from knowing the history that guys had regular jobs and would go and play in the NBA.
Yeah.
That right there would mean you can never score. And then the games was different. The playoff was different back then. They didn't play probably as many games without looking at going into history. The game is expanded drastically. So if you go on that type of scale, let's say they're playing less games, there's less playoff games, there's less everything, then you got to judge them based on those stats, not the stats of now. So then, their numbers will be a little skewed based on some of the players now. Just like back then, there wasn't no three-point shooting. Now there's three-point shooting. That expanded the game. So you can't judge Ray Allen or Miller versus – you could, but, only for their era. So Steph Curry's in the era where that's all they do.
Bill Walton averaged 18 and 14. That was his best year. His best year was 18 points.
And he was part of the face of the NBA for a reason.
But 18 and 14 is wow, especially if he played defense. I mean, we don't know what kind of defense that man played.
He averaged 3 blocks a game and 1 steal. He won.
Hold on. 3 blocks a game is wild. That ain't good. That's wild.
Yeah. Look at everybody's average. You'll see 3 is good. See, I told you.
3 is more than good. 3 is wild.
He got 3 is Henny. Matt, he got a bottle of Henny on the side. I'm telling you. He's sipping a little bit.
Look, listen to what I said. I said that's his best number. That was his best year. That's good. He won MVP, and they won the chip. Right? That's cool. That's good numbers. That's a good season.
That's cool, bro.
He just won the MVP, and the nigga was defensive player. That's all right.
Yo, what was your stats, bro? Yo, 18, 14, and 3. It was
You had niggas putting up numbers around them, bro. But that's good. That's good numbers. Nick won fucking Sixth Man of the Year, averaging 7 points and 6 rebounds, bro.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's put a bow on this topic. Yeah.
Wait, real quick. I'm gonna save it for the next segment when we do the 50 greatest. I'm gonna save this. I had something, but I'm gonna save it.
You gotta be fucking kidding me with some of this shit.
It's cool or whatever.
Nigga, what?
Make sure you get that on there.
All right, so our next topic. This year we've seen a lot of players. Well, this shortened year, we've seen a lot of players kind of reach the next level of their game, superstardom. You had Zion that was starting to enter his own. You had, Luka Mania. Jason Tatum and the Celtics are doing a lot of things. Devin Booker has become like one of the best scorers in the league. Like a lot of young guys are really staking their claim in the game. So my question for you, we're going to take a look at two of them. I know we have, Giannis and Anthony Davis and those guys who are like upper echelon. But looking towards the future, who do you guys think has a better chance of being the face of the league? Luka Doncic or Jason Tatum? And I'm going to start with Matt on this one.
I gotta go with my boy JT, man, Jason Tatum, bro. I think Luka is amazing. But I think with Jason Tatum, he just has everything that you want in a player, bro. Like everything that you want in a player, he has it. The athleticism, his scoring ability, he could shoot he could score on like all 5 different levels. So 3 mid range, he could put smaller guys in the post. He could get to the basket and finish, and he shoots a high percentage from the free throw line. So that's literally all 5. He could score on all 5 levels, and he could play with the team. He doesn't have to dominate the ball necessarily for him to be successful, and he plays for the Celtics. Celtics are is one of the most, I might hate them, but they're one of the most storied franchises. So just playing for that team and what they represent in the league, if he's like one of the best players in the league, then it's going to be easy for them to push him as like the face of the league, in a couple of years. And we've just seen like his ascension over the past couple of years. Luka's great, and he's like really, really good, but he doesn't play defense. And I think Luka, like, he monopolizes, he dominates the ball a little bit too much. So it might get the other players like out of rhythm sometimes. Like KP started playing a lot better when Luka got hurt. And they're still young, they're still trying to figure it out, which I think they'll be great. But I think Tatum is more like you could ask him to do whatever. He's easy to just plug anywhere, and I think that's going to be better for him over the long term, of his career.
Okay. Steve, what's your thoughts?
I was a little torn on this one because if you look at the stats, it's automatic Luka, right? But I don't think the stats is gonna give the whole story. Luka's averaging damn near triple-double, but he's somewhere between the middle and the bottom almost of, in the playoff picture. So obviously either he's not doing enough or he doesn't have enough help. But either way, I don't think he can sustain what he's doing for a long time. And even if he does, let's say he does, that doesn't mean he's going to be the face of the NBA, because that's the question. Going to be the face of the NBA or part of the face, right? Which one was it? I want to make sure it's be the face of the NBA, right?
Be the face, yeah.
Right. And so I think he has more room to go backwards, meaning, average less somewhere, maybe field goal percentage. I don't think he's going to be the face of the NBA. And I noticed that a lot of people, players in the NBA, that's usually the face of the league, they're a lot more athletic. They're actually carrying a team. Their team record is a winning record, meaning they're like maybe top 3, right, in the NBA, or maybe top 3 in their conference. You know what I'm saying? So I think that all plays a role. And not only that, Tatum has actually gotten better every year. His stats has actually increased every year. He's been asked to do, like Matt said, more. He's taken that challenge, and every year he's gone up. So, and I think he hasn't even tapped into all of his potential of what he can be and where he could be. But once he gets that, it's a wrap for a lot of people. That's kind of like with Greek. Once he starts realizing what he's capable of doing and work on his game and add a little, this and that to it, the guys are going to be really good. I think with Luka, he has the goods. He's coming into this with all of the goods. And that's why I said, unless he's going to start putting up 35 points a game, you know what I mean? That's the only way. And winning chips, because that's at the end of the day is what's going to amount to winning chips and being the face of the league. That's the only way I see him doing it, because we had people that damn near average triple doubles all the time, and Oscar Robinson, Russell Westbrook for 2 years, and they're not the face of the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So even if you don't count the chips, you know, if they got chips in the future, I still don't think that he would be the face of the NBA. I think it would probably I would have to go with Tatum.
Okay, I definitely feel you on that one. Kyle, what are your thoughts? You look like you're mulling something over.
Well, I'm going with Luka, and mainly because of the fact that point guards usually have the popularity vote on certain things. So like, and I feel that also just getting certain cosigns from certain people from already, like, since LeBron is considered like the face of the NBA, when you're co-signed by LeBron, everybody tends to gravitate to, you know, the people that they co-sign. Not to mention, Luka Doncic is like you know, averaging damn near a triple double. This is only his second year, but both of these guys are not even 5 years in. This was Jason Tatum's third year in the NBA. This is his third year. You know, this is Luka's second, and then both of them are literally like tearing the league up. More Luka than JT, you know, and that's just what it is. Luka Doncic is an MVP caliber player. They had him like fourth, maybe fourth or third this year. Jason Tatum is nowhere to be found on that list, and obviously it's because I think Luka is running his team. Jason Tatum is a part of a team. Luka's running. So I mean, that's my biggest thing. And granted, there's not much to talk about for me, I believe, because there's not that much sample size. Like I said, 2 years to 3 years. One came in the league firing, and the other one is just getting better. So it's like, you know, I think for both players, the sky is the limit. But I'm definitely giving the nod to Luka due to the simple fact that he's already it doesn't take much to be the face of the franchise, the face of the league. Once you're already an MVP player, you know, obviously we got, you know, knock on wood, barring any injury of that nature. The Luka is almost a foregone conclusion for me.
Okay, and Aaron.
Luka, because he's white. Like, hold on, yo, hold on.
If you're gonna say, look, I wasn't gonna say that. I wasn't gonna pull a race card, but if you wanted to pull a race card, Aaron, you should have told me.
It's not a race card though. It's a hold on. Yo, let's be real though. Let's be real. Basketball is a business, right? It's a bit like, of course, it's a sport. It's a sport we all love. But at the end of the day, like, them owners is out there to make money. Let's look at Jeremy Lin, for example. Jeremy Lin, for the point that Linsanity was insanity, was the face of the NBA. Because obviously you got the Chinese population. It's about business. It's about, you know what I'm saying, what can sell. When you have a dude,
I think that's what it's about, though, Aaron.
Yeah, of course. No, but I'm saying, like, race has something to do with that. It's the shock factor of, okay, we're able to package something that is not the normal presentation in our league. I mean, the NBA is perceived as a black league. That's why we have this, you know, quote unquote stereotypes with the NBA and stuff like that, and marketing. And so to say that having, you know, a young Caucasian player who people can identify with and whatever, and looks different than the normal African Americans that are presented, wouldn't be something that financially would benefit the league, would be a naive thing to say. Not to say that he wouldn't earn it based upon merit. He would still have to be nasty. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like the professor coming into N1. There's a big thing around the professor because the professor's the only white dude out there running in street ball with black dudes. And it's like, yo, and he nasty. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, Luka's gonna get it just because he white. No, because I remember when Keith Van Horn was being called the next Larry Bird, And when that did not pan out, they dropped that real quick. That marketing scheme went to the garbage can. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like they're gonna just put any white guy out there. But I think that definitely does help. You know what I'm saying? It definitely does help. And that's why I would say that. Now, you know what I'm saying? It's not anything about, just straight up race, but it's about race, economics, and also that man being nasty. He gotta be nasty. He is.
I think that and you guys all made great points. And I think that it's kind of a Kobe Tim Duncan situation. I think that like we all saw Kobe as a face of the league, but Tim Duncan was the one winning all the chips.
That might be. Yeah.
I think that Luka is in a position to kind of be that player where it's like he's not the face of the league, but he's the one that's in the championship picture for years to come, and not just because of how great he is, but because he also has Porzingis with them. They're young, they're up and coming. They're playing out in a tougher conference, so they have to kind of get better quicker to keep up with everybody that's there. Jason Tatum, to be honest with you, this year I've really seen a lot of. I don't want to say it because it's too early, but I've seen a lot of Kobe in him. If
Kobe-esque.
Kobe-esque, yeah.
Kobe-ish.
He's had moments where it was like he's had moments where he just takes over a game. Like he takes it over, and like I've watched Luka play in person, and he's had a 30-point triple-double at the game that I went to. But watching him play, you would never know it. Because he's Tim Duncan in that sense. He'll give you 30, 12, and like 11 assists. And watching him play, you're like, how did he get that? Because he doesn't look like he's doing too much, Whereas Jason Tatum is high flying, he's clutch, he's got the fadeaway. And another thing, this is his third year yet, but I think he would have taken that leap last season had that whole Kyrie situation not happened. He was poised from his rookie year. His rookie year, he was 5 minutes away from the finals, and he was the guy on that team. Like Jaylen Brown was doing this thing a little bit, yeah, but Jason Tatum from his rookie year was carrying the Celtics through the playoffs. Dunked on LeBron. That would have been his moment had they won. Had they won that series with the dunk on LeBron, maybe like 6 minutes left in Game 7. He would have had that already. He's on Team Jordan. I mean, Luka's on Team Jordan too, but he's on Jordan brand. He's doing Gatorade commercials. He's already taken that step to be, he's showing that he's marketable. And on top of that, he's probably, you could argue and say he's a top 20 player in the league right now, if not top 10. I know top 10 might be more of a stretch, but you could definitely argue he's a top 20 player in the league. And it's his third year. If you want to be technical, it's really his second year because his second year being the guy. And he's stepped up. So I know it's shocking everybody because I'm a Mavs fan through and through, but I'm gonna go with Jason Tatum.
I was on a fence with you with the decision because I said, Keith, if he's looking at it like the fundamental, because I can't think of another player, but you brought up a good point. You win chips, you put up good stats, right? You do it consistently for a longer stretch of time. And it's like you can never deny their greatness. But how do you market them when they're plain Jane? You have to dress them up to make them a face of the league. And what I mean by dressing them up is, like you said, is he marketable? And it has nothing to do with the game. It's all about, like you said, the Gatorade commercials, how well he does, how well he speaks. I've never heard Luka speak or JT, but I'm sure this all plays a role, right? So when you marketing someone, when JT got commercials already, you're marketing him because you feel he's marketable. And then instantly, oh, who's that? Oh, that's the guy who dunked on LeBron. Oh, word? Let me go watch him play. And then when you go see that, you're like, oh shit, Duke can play. And then when you see Luka do it, like you said, Luka scored like 6 in a row. And then he'll go off and get like 3, 4, 5 assists. Then go get like 2, 3 rebounds. Then come back, score another 2, 3 points. And like you said, he's scoring them like that. So before you know it, at the end of the game, you're like, this motherfucker had 30. That's that Aaron we was talking about. You don't realize how much someone scores into the end of the game. Like, shit, he did score a lot, because a lot of players do that. And because he doesn't have that spunk that JT got. And that's what everybody's looking for. They're looking for that explosiveness, that fancy, that this, that, and to wow the fans. And when you're wowing the fans, in that manner, even if you're not putting up 28, 8 and 8, then yeah, that's what they're gonna market, because that's what people come to watch. That's why Kyrie name is the way it is. He ain't win no chips. He ain't have no success other than with LeBron, but he has a handle, and people want to see that. So that's how they market him, and that's how they look at him. But he's not that guy. He's number 2.
Yeah.
So quick thing real quick about the marketability. So, this isn't always like the most accurate way of measuring like star power, but I mean, it is a big thing that companies do use, or a short way of, checking things real quick. IG followers. Jason Tatum got 3.2 mil. Luka Doncic got 4.7. When I think Doncic is more popular than you may realize, and again, that whole race factor thing, you know what I'm saying, it does come in.
And, but you know what I say what I think about that is the only thing I say, and I see where you're going with it, and it's like it makes sense. But the only thing I would say is that Luka is also an international player. So like he's gonna have his followers from overseas that are gonna follow him regardless, and that adds to it, but it also takes away, because when you're looking at the NBA, yes, it's a global
game
franchise, but when they look at when they target their target audience is America. Like, let's point blank. You know what I mean? Like they look at China, they do everything, like they bring the games over there, they bring the games to France and Europe and all that. They got games in Mexico now, but like their number one audience is the United States. So that's the reason why I would say Tatum over Luka, because like he's more. It's weird because like you could argue both really, but like I don't know. At the end of the day, I kind of see it like how Kobe and Duncan was. Like
I think
in all honesty, you could probably argue Duncan was a better player. You know what I mean? 5 championships. 5 championships, Aaron. You can't argue that. Come on.
Kobe got 5 too, though.
And he's beaten Kobe in those series.
But it's the way Kobe did it.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that's the difference.
I think that matters. Wait, when you say, for instance, Aaron, both games is on, right? You got a San Antonio game and you got a Laker game. Not even paying attention to Shaq. Let's say Lakers without Shaq. What game you gonna go watch?
Oh, so here's the thing. It's not just because Kobe's more flashy, though. It's because he's the more dominant force.
But Kobe beat Duncan too without Shaq.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying, no, it's not about the dominance. It's about what he could do on the court. He's more flashy with it. It's how he scores. It's how he does it. So people want to see that. Yeah. It's more entertaining, let's say. I think Keith said, right. That's what sells. So if that's gonna sell, then yeah, hell yeah, people are gonna gravitate to that more than the Duncan. Although Duncan is doing it better than him probably, and for a longer period of time, and with less help. He's doing it with a bunch of good role players. Except when he had Robinson, but let's be real, right? So, that's how I would. You're gonna, when it comes to marketing, you're gonna go what gravitates the money, and they always do that.
Like there's
the white guy the money.
Yeah, but there's no arguing that whether who was a better player, Duncan or Kobe. Like Kobe was the better, he was
Right.
better skilled, he
Right.
was better. But
Right.
Duncan's game isn't gonna generate money because of how he plays. He plays like very fundamental, back to the basket, bank shot, all that low key. He doesn't talk. You know,
Straight
it's a lot.
face.
It's a lot of parallels between these two comparisons. Like Duncan doesn't talk. Luka talks, but he don't talk like
Nah,
that. You know what I'm
nah.
saying? Like he has a little more
Jason,
personality.
yeah,
But
Jason's
Jason
engaged.
Tatum is he's on the Twitch, like doing Twitch, playing 2K and all that stuff. Like he's more in touch with like this generation and the fans than Luka is. And Luka's my guy, you know what I mean? Like I'm a Mavs fan through and through.
And
2011, you know?
but Aaron says
Dirk. Look like Dirk. Very, very much.
he's Dirkish.
Yeah, he's a great player that don't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sell. People, it's a competitive sport, right? So what makes it competitive? It's not just people don't always want to just high five the opposite player. Yeah, good play, good play. I think Keith, we talk about it all the time. When we at the gym, I talk smack all the time. Is to engage you guys to make you guys give me 110%. I don't want you saying good shot, good shot, good shot every time. Yeah, I want you to like. I know he ain't just scoring me. Bet I'm gonna go down the other way and I'm gonna score him because it's a competition. It's competitive. Not that Luka's not being competitive. Of course, these guys are being competitive. But he's more of the guy to high five that other guy that just dunked on his head and say, "Yo, good dunk on my head." Jason Tatum is like, "Fuck out of here." And he coming back the other way. He's trying to come back at him. He don't care if he's crossing them over. He's doing whatever he could do, and he's gonna showboat, and people want to see that. So it's all about what they want to see. And Aaron, to speak on what you said about the followers, there's a lot of people that's not on social media too. You got to remember that. And there's a lot of people who support that's not on social media who don't follow. I'm part of that. I have social media, but there's certain players I haven't gone to follow yet. I don't follow either one of them, but I will. But I'm just saying, you know, there's some people who's not even on social media, and there's people that are on social media but not following them. So you got a lot of that, but they're NBA fans. They watch the games religiously. They might have NBA pass, but they just don't follow them. And it takes away from being biased too, because a lot of these players do stupid things, you know, and that might make you dislike a player. And like, you know, I didn't like what he did, and you might be against what he did, and then you once did like him, and then you don't. So for some people, they want to stay away from that.
All right. So just to put a bow on this topic, we're gonna go and say who we have. I have Jason Tatum. Kyle, who do you have?
I got Luka Doncic. Luka the Don.
Matt?
Marco.
I got JT. Young Kobe.
I got Jay.
Aaron?
I got Luka Doncic.
All right. Young Kobe. All right. All right. For the last topic, I actually found something that that was pretty interesting when I saw it. And you guys, you know, just give me like a quick two minutes because I know none of us want to miss the last dance. But what if would you have preferred? Would you have preferred Chris Paul joining the Lakers that year, or would you prefer OKC's Big Three never splitting up? So we all know, like, you know, that year that Chris Paul got traded to the Lakers. David Stern was acting owner of the Hornets, vetoed the trade, and that never happened. And then also Big Three of from OKC with Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. They didn't want to pay Harden the money that he was deserved of getting. He ends up going to Houston. Whatever you want to say between Westbrook and Durant. Before that, after losing the series, after being up 3-1 against Golden State, Durant heads to Golden State, and the rest is history. So I'm gonna go around real quick and just give me a couple minutes of your time and your thoughts on it. Aaron.
For me, I'd rather have seen CP3 go to the Lakers, just for the fact that, when you play these hypotheticals, it's always hard to kind of figure out whatever. But we got to know James Harden, more likely than not, would have not become James Harden if them three had stayed together. So kind of thinking about it now, you're just like, oh, yeah, Harden. And it's like, we don't know if we have that Harden. And then if we do, who on OKC has to scale back their game because of that? So for me, I would have rather seen, we're going to get CP3 going out there with Kobe and, like, doing work. That's more what I was looking forward to. I remember how heartbroken I was when the league came and put the kibosh on that. So that would be my pick.
Okay. Steve.
I'd rather see OKC because that was homegrown. I like to see teams that's homegrown. Lakers, that's a big franchise. They're always good at one era or another. They never really slack too much because of how the ownership is. So they always got good players. And we don't know if CP3 and Kobe was going to work out. Kobe's ball dominant. CP3, he needs the ball in his hand, right? So I'm just saying, we don't know if that was going to work out. We see a lot of superstars. They join. It don't always work out. I think you said it earlier. Harden, he maybe he would have to scale his game back because he was the youngest, and we don't know what he was going to be. But I would have liked to see a new team win, and I think that's the question. Which one would you rather have seen? I only wanted to see OKC because I want them to see get a chip. I think with them three, they would have got a chip, even if that meant Harden had to scale his game back a little bit. I would like to see Westbrook with a chip, if they would have gotten a chip, obviously. But I think with them three, I think they would have had a really good chance, even with Harden scaling his game back. Versus CP3, although it got vetoed, I thought that was foul. But I think Lakers still ended up getting chips anyway. So it might have been exciting to watch CP3 because he's a very good player, and Kobe and all of that. But I think for me, I'd rather had seen OKC, just for them, the simple fact of trying to get a chip.
All right. Aaron, hold your thought. We're going to get back to you. Aaron, we're going to get to you. Hold on, Aaron. Matt, what do you think?
I gotta go with, I would rather have seen the Lakers get Chris Paul. Steve made a very compelling point. The OKC being homegrown, because that's pretty dope. It is pretty dope when you see that. But I say Chris Paul with Lakers because I do think it would have worked with him and Kobe because Kobe wants to score. Chris Paul wants to facilitate. If they played in the triangle, I think they would have been fine. Kobe would have got, I think, they had a window. I think he could have got another chip, squeezed one out of there, hopefully. But also, what we've seen in the last 7 years or 5, 6, 7 years from the OKC Big Three, like being separated, like we've been blessed with amazing basketball from those guys, bro. Like individually, so I wouldn't want, like, if it means like them that had to, the only reason that happened is because they broke up. So if they stayed together, we wouldn't have been able to see each of these players at their peak. And they gave us great basketball over the last 7 years. So I wouldn't give up what they did individually to see them stay together, if that makes sense. Because, like, man, that should have been entertaining watching Harden and fucking Westbrook. Like, that should be dope. So I would have rather see Chris Paul help Kobe get that 6th chip.
Okay. And Kyle, just to round it out.
Oh, man. Seeing CP, the Lakers, man. That would probably do it for me. And I'm not, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Lakers fan, but because I loved the OKC when they had all three of them. And somebody had a really good point that, like, I think it was, I forgot what I was watching or something like that. But it was, I know they said that James Harden would have been the one more than anybody else. And Russell Westbrook would have ended up playing the 2. And obviously Durant's going to, be Durant. But the way they're having it set up, I don't think James Harden doesn't become the scorer that we see, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one that was averaging the triple doubles, not Russell Westbrook. And Russell Westbrook would be the one averaging 28 a game. And just because off of him and Durant probably be the ones averaging 28. James Harden probably averaged 21, 22. But it'd be 22, 7, and 7, just based off of how that dynamic could have been. But CP3 to the Lakers would have been just that kind of personality between the both of them. You got teams being defensively frustrated all the time, having to guard Kobe and Chris Paul, and also offensively frustrated because both of them guys were dogs on defense as well. So, and this is a Chris Paul before the nagging injuries kept happening. So, I don't know. I think it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win a championship if Chris Paul got there. Because I think they were. I don't even think they were going to give up Pau Gasol. I think they were going to end up giving up Andrew Bynum and 2 first-round picks. So you're going to keep Pau Gasol and Lamar.
Yeah,
But
that's big.
Lamar,
and Andrew.
A lot of people. Yeah, Andrew Bynum, but everybody and giving up Andrew Bynum, probably the biggest hit more is giving up Lamar Odom and not Andrew Bynum. So I don't know. I mean, I'd rather have seen that.
And it would have saved salary cap space.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have had the talent that they had. By them vetoing that, they ended up getting 2 chips, and they almost got 3. They almost did another 3-peat.
That was after that trade happened.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, because the trade didn't happen. They ended up doing something else that worked out to get them 2 chips. So what we're saying is
that happened after that. Before with that trade got vetoed when they lost to Dallas. That was the year they lost.
Oh, okay.
That was the year they lost to Dallas. So that was the year that was supposed to happen.
I'm thinking of it.
So
I'm as much as I wanted to see, it would have been interesting seeing Chris Paul and Kobe play together, but I can't overlook the fact that you had 3 players that were drafted onto a team. They were young, and they had more years to play. In the amount of time that they were together, they made it to the finals. They lost to another big 3, But I think I think it's inevitable that one or both would have been traded regardless, even if they stuck together longer. But I think you have a better window of opportunity for them to win. And just the fact that they're young and they would have been growing and learning together, I think it would have been more interesting and more fun to watch the 3 of them play together. Because you got to figure Harden was coming off the bench. He probably starts. Well, not probably. He most likely starts the following season. They're going to build around them, whether it's a big man, whether it's defense, shooters, or they're going to build around them, and people are going to want to come there to play with them. So I think that as cool as it would have been to have Kobe and CP3, especially when that trade was going to happen, it was more towards the twilight of Kobe's career, so he probably would have taken a step back a little bit to CP just because he wouldn't have had to do as much work. He could have let CP run the show and he get his spots here and there. He's still going to average 20, 25 or whatever, but because it's Kobe. But you know what I mean? The amount of pressure that he would have put on himself wouldn't have been as much because Chris Paul's there. And also you have 2 perennial all-stars on the same team. They're going to want people there with them. So people are going to want to come play, whether it was Dwight Howard. That probably works out if it's Dwight Howard and Chris Paul and Kobe instead of Steve Nash, Chris Paul and Kobe. I mean, and Dwight, So as interesting as it would have been, I still got to go with OKC, the big 3. I think them sticking together would have been another dynasty. And then what's to say OKC versus their big 3 versus Golden State? What would have happened then?
I mean, they could have been Miami Heat with LeBron before Miami Heat and LeBron happened.
Exactly.
They would have had 4 players though. They couldn't have 5.
That could have been a rematch. The next year.
Who would have had 4 players?
OKC would have had 4, maybe 5 players that are You got to remember, like before the
Ibaka was there too.
No, right. They get rid of Ibaka. That was the problem.
They got
it was
rid
either
of
Ibaka or Harden. So if you get rid of Ibaka, he has stock. He had more stock than Harden.
But they could have kept them all, though. You could keep your players. You could go over the cap to keep yours.
They could.
Yeah, but then you pay a
yours.
luxury tax. You got to pay the tax.
You can pay the tax. Niggas is being cheap.
Nah, it was either Harden or Ibaka. They couldn't keep both.
Yeah, it wasn't both. You had to do one or the other. And because Ibaka had more value, that's why at the time, that's why they got rid of Harden. Yeah.
That's why the trade happened so late.
That's what we know. That's
they
what we know.
They could have paid luxury. That's what they selling. I don't believe that.
Could. You're right. They could have, because I think Cleveland did it with their big three with Love, and I think the Cleveland Cavaliers paid a luxury tax. But it's up to the owners. But that's up to the owners.
But that's the thing.
But you're gonna pay luxury tax for a championship caliber type of player in LeBron. You got these young guys; they haven't proved that yet. So, do you really want to pay the luxury tax for that, not knowing what they're going to be?
Versus they made a run though.
It's only to give them the money though. Like they could have, they were talking about it. Like they could have given Serge Ibaka the same amount they gave Harden.
But that's remember the TV deal didn't happen yet. All of that didn't happen yet. That's a big salary cap. You got to play 4 players, not just 3. At least for LeBron and them, it was just 3. It was just their big 3 in Cleveland. With OKC, you got 4 guys you're playing. You're already over the luxury tax without the TV deal and a new collective bargaining agreement. Back then, you didn't have that just jumped up recently. Right. So then you're already over the cap with 3 players. How do you have 4?
That's what I'm saying. They weren't. They were all coming up with deals.
But we don't know what Harden was asking for. What was Harden asking for?
Harden wasn't asking.
Well, there's only a limit to what you can ask for because you could. Remember, they put it.
And that's why. But that's why the trade.
That's why they didn't do it. That's why it happened. Yeah, because it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah, they were trying their best to keep him. That's why it happened a week before the season started. You know.
A week before the season started? That's crazy.
That trade was like, it was 1 week before him when he went to Houston. It was a week before the season started.
I'm just saying that they could have kept him.
They could have if they would have paid.
They definitely could have kept him. And they just, like I said, I know when I was it was like they had the option to not give Serge Ibaka the max amount of money that they could have given him. And then they didn't present that option to James Harden. They just kind of left James out of everything, and then just gave it to Serge Ibaka. And honestly, they chose the defense over the offense
because
James.
That's because they had 2 players for offense. And think about it like this:
but it's not to say he wet the bed.
Well, how about look at it like this for us? Just a different perspective. If you're owning a team, right? These are the same players who couldn't get you a chip yet. So what if you're going to overpay for these players, let's say, and you're over the cap paying a luxury tax, and it's not guaranteed that you're going to get a chip. So the only thing that's going to happen is what? You're going to end up paying them more money to lose, or not. Let's not say lose, but still may potentially not get a chip. So you just overpay for something that you feel that you don't know what your chances are. You have to be really confident in that in order for you to overpay for a player. I'm not going to, if I don't feel 100% confident in all of the guys, I'm not going to pay a luxury tax like that. So I'm guessing that's probably what happened as to why they moved him last minute like that. The money had to be too much for him not to. I mean, we'll just put it like this. Look at the contract that he got with Houston. That goes right there with what might have been around that number what they was looking for.
Word. All right, so just real quick because we're getting to the end of this. Aaron, you have CP3 or you have CP3,
yeah,
right?
CP3. Yeah, CP3.
All right. Steve, you have the OKC staying together?
Yeah.
All right, Matt's out of here. He said he wants he wanted CP3 to stay together. He wanted CP3 to join Kobe, yeah. And Kyle, you have CP3.
Yeah, CP3 going to the Lakers.
Okay.
Matt don't got DVR. That's what I did. My shit DVR, so I'm like, I catch up. Just commercials.
No, I was moving around upstairs and shit.
All right, guys, this is the end of episode 2 of the Locker Room. I want to thank my boys for coming to chat basketball with me. Again, we're gonna do episode 3. We're gonna start looking into the top 50 players, really dissecting and seeing who deserves to be here, who doesn't deserve to be there, what the circumstances were from putting them in, and just our thoughts on it. So tune in next time, and we're out.
Peace.